Hey everyone, this is Don the Repentless. This is another episode of Too Long for Twitter. Now, the series overall is not going to be me responding to specific posts on Twitter that I receive, or replies to my arguments, but to talk about some ideals and things that come out in Twitter somewhat regularly. Take for example, there are creationists on Twitter who like to throw out a quote from Aristotle from volume 12 of his Metaphysics series, because he made you already know it's a series because it's volume 12, chapter 7 specifically, and they always quote this same passage from that same book, as if this one quote, it somehow encapsulates Aristotle's overall philosophy. Now, I'm not a fan of philosophy to begin with. I still consider philosophers to be, as stated, as said in the History of the World, Volume 1, that they're bullshit artists. And Aristotle, I mean, he's an ancient guy. He wrote a bunch of stuff. He's considered a great scholar of ancient times. He's not exactly someone that I look to as some kind of authority figure. And for some reason, when the Christians tend to throw out this quote, they seem to think that you're expected to accept Aristotle's viewpoint as being authoritative, as somehow we atheists are like, oh, we're all about the Aristotle. No, that's not the case, at least for me. Because like I said, I'm not a philosopher. I don't really worry about philosophy as a general rule. I don't say that I never think about philosophy. I do, but I'm not someone who thinks I should be bound by someone in particular's philosophy. For example, Aristotle. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know a lot about the overarching themes of the entire work of Metaphysics, which is a series that the Christians tend to quote from. So I don't know if this is exactly, if the Christians are taking what Aristotle is trying to say in the proper context of the larger works that he wrote. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of get annoyed when they throw out Aristotle. They throw him out there way too often. And if you question him on it, it's like they think you're somehow breaching some kind of freaking law or something. And that you should take Aristotle's word, or this brief snippet from his works, and take it as freaking gospel fact. I see that a lot in Christians. I mean, they tend to see anything that's ancient, like Aristotle, Isaac Newton, and that lot, as if that is set in stone truth. They quote Isaac Newton on God and gravity, talking about how, science can tell you how the planets move, but who put them in motion. If Newton knew about accretion and how the solar system worked, he wouldn't say something like that, because accretion wasn't known. The entire how the solar system came together from the accretion disk of the sun wasn't known yet. So he was operating from what he knew at the time. And he was a great scientist, but he didn't have all the information. We still don't have all the information about the universe and how it works. That's why science is an ongoing process, why we continue to have experiments and placing hypotheses I'm not a scientist, but scientists put forward hypotheses and test them to try to find answers for how things work and why they work the way they do. But back to Aristotle. Aristotle in history is, like I said, he's one of the early philosophers. He's one of the earliest people to write about this kind of stuff. And in that regard, he should be respected as an individual and as a person in history, but not be taken as some kind of final authority on anything. There have been philosophers after him. There have been scientists after Newton. There's been, as long as, you keep holding up ancient things as these great solid, written in stone rules, you're not going to be part of the movement that takes us into the future, that takes that foundation of thought. Because that is, Aristotle is part of the foundation of thinking in terms of philosophy. And for that, like I said, he's a great figure in history to be respected, but not to be held up as some kind of ultimate authority. I don't think any individual philosopher, any individual scientist should be held up on some kind of pedestal as if their breakthrough is the end-all and be-all of science, of philosophy, or anything. There will always, I can't remember who said this, but somebody says that we stand on the back of science. It might have been Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't know. I'm not, but I remember that quote. Every scientist is standing on the backs of giants, those people who went before them. And as long as we have this going forward, we will continue to make greater and greater strides in science, in learning how the universe works, why it works the way it does. And ultimately, I think we will come to a point where we have a fairly good idea, even if we don't know everything. We will have a fairly good grasp of how all things began. And when that day comes, it's not going to be somebody saying God did it. It'll be a scientist performing actual tests and research and all that. And that's really the point of this whole video, is we may look back at the past and we can learn from the past and we can be inspired by the past, but what went before us is not a set in stone gospel truth. It is not true. If something is in there is incorrect, it needs to be corrected. And the problem is that Christians, especially, and Christians, religious people in general, think that if something was written down in the past, it must be followed exactly. Or what, you kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to say. I'm going on and on and on, but I think I've made the main points that I wanted to make in this video. So I'm going to end this and say, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it on social media, and subscribe for more Too Long for Twitter, for Life of an Inventory Auditor. It's my channel, and I'll whine if I want to, and other videos that I make. This is Donald the Repentless, signing off. Be awesome, everyone.